welcome to episode 109 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Eddie. Joining me this week, a man who is leaving us for greener pastures as he's gotten everything he could out of his weekly commitments and he's decided he has nothing left to achieve. A man who has announced his retirement. So it is with a heavy heart. Today we say farewell to our good friend. Nah, you didn't do it properly, guys. You gotta give 2 weeks notice. You're still working here, guys. Gotta read the whole card. Guys. So back in your seat, pick up those cards, and you keep saying, hi, guys.
Hi, guys. Yes, that is correct. Reading cards, what do they say? Reading the card explains the card.
Reading the card does explain the card.
Yeah, and I think most of the time, all the information that you need to action the card properly is on the card. So, yes, I did not read the whole card and realized I didn't retire, which I am not the only one that did that, funnily enough. So that was I didn't realize I hadn't done that, though, because I didn't actually read the card out loud. I was just like, hey, I did this thing. The rest of the text, I'm sure, is just there for flavor. So
absolutely. And for context, like at the very end of our most recent playthrough, I think it was episode 23 or 24, we basically did announce 3 retirements at the end. And it turns out we actually, in that video, they only saw one person that didn't retire, which was Mark. And that was a fun little explanation of why that wasn't a thing. So that was very fun. But it was you and I that did retire. And then over the off period or downtime, we worked out that you haven't as well. And that's... Yep.
I feel like we worked our way, we worked hard, did our years in the salt mines, right? Got to retirement, and then we're like, oh, that's good, I'm retired. And then we went away for the weekend on our first weekend of retirement. And then I got a phone call on the Sunday. I was like, sorry, like we couldn't process your retirement. Like,
no,
back in the mines.
Exactly. Well, they can't have 2 people retire at the same time. It was kind of like that thing where, when 2 people, you've got a coworker and you're really good mates, and then you both clock off at the same time, and it's really cool to just leave at the same time. It's like you and I was like, hey, we're retiring together, etc. And I'm leaving, and they're like, guys, can I see you in my office? And I'm like, whoa, what do I do? Do I just I'll wait outside for you, And then you come back outside, you're all sad, you're like, I got to do 2 more hours. And I'm like, oh, like, I feel bad, but you must feel way worse. Because I can go now.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, oh, can you hang around? Because you're kind of my ride. Yeah, it's a little bit like that. I think more just because the excitement of moving on. It's funny because I was kind of in a good place with the Beetle, and I think I'm feeling a bit better with it. So I'm not sad that I get to play it again. I wasn't kind of like, ugh, I'm done with this. But the nature of my PQ was very determined based on what scenario I'm doing. So like it was one of those things where I was like, I think I have to go hard and do this now and collect the things I need to collect, because if I don't, it could be another 2 or 3 scenarios before I get the opportunity to. And I remember looking at the chart. I don't think there was anything else available there. So I was like, nah, I think I need to do that. And I mean, it would have worked perfectly if I'd read the rest of the card, realizing there's another scenario I need to do afterwards.
Yeah. No, very true.
And so we'd have just gone through. So, I mean, we are doing that, and that's exactly what we're going to do, but just would have been good to know that experience from the start.
I mean, true. But now that you've gotten over the stresses of doing the hard yards and not having to wonder when the next time you're going to be able to trigger the things you need to do, now the retirement's in your control. We don't actually have to do it. You can now just hang on until you're ready to let go of it.
That's true, actually. We could just not do that scenario. I mean, I know Mark definitely enjoyed me, like, filling his deck with crits. So I feel like that second scenario, because we did 2 scenarios, and that second one, I mean, game's easy when all you draw is crits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't matter how well people play. If every number on your attack value is double that number, game becomes a lot easier.
It does become easier.
Yeah,
100% becomes easier.
So I think, yeah, it's an interesting strategy.
Yeah.
And I wonder if now we need to bump up the difficulty.
We'll get to that shortly because, yeah, that will come up. But on today's episode, right after our dirt sheet, we're going to be covering scenario 19 because, like I said, we had 2 scenarios we fit into the one day, and this is back in Easter, and it feels like a forever ago.
Does, doesn't it?
It does. So scenario 19, elemental experiments, and we did scenario 23, icicle chambers. We're going to have another amDirt Diaries with the retirement of the bleeding claw, and only the bleeding claw. And then we're also going to go through the new cards that I hadn't seen yet. So we'll be having a look to see.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, a bit of
Yep,
that. I was
yep.
looking forward to seeing a few more, like yours maybe, but that's okay. We'll have to wait for that.
We can spread the content out, right?
That's
Like, we
true.
don't want to burn through all of our content in one episode.
No.
People will stop listening.
Exactly. And we'll have a PQ chat because we can probably discuss all 3 PQs, and because now that we know what they are,
That's true.
and have a bit of a chat about that.
Yep.
All right, so dirt sheet. The only thing I have on the agenda for the dirt sheet was that we did have Gamemania, and the plan was, I think every year when we do this episode post Gamemania, we squeeze it into a regular Frosthaven one, or we separate it into a Gamemania one where we have a chat about some of the board games that we did play. And I think this year we've decided to actually split it into two separate episodes so that we can actually concentrate a little bit more on the variety board game side of things, where we can actually, discuss which games we actually played, kind of, how they worked, how they felt in our group, what we liked and what we didn't like. And that way, yeah, we can sort of go into kind of uncharted territory in state, like going away from the Gloomhaven thing that we've been doing for so long, and having a feel of variety board gaming just to see what the reception is like and how we like it.
That's it. I mean, we started this podcast because we were sitting around for hours not playing games, talking about playing games, right? And so we were like, well, why don't we just record that? And then we realized that, I don't know, it's probably easier if we start with something like Frosthaven because we had that about to kick off. So it will be fun to record some of our thoughts about the games we actually played. And not have the time pressure of realizing that we've also got to cram in Frosthaven content.
Yep.
Because that's always the tricky part, right? Like, people can opt out of listening to a conversation about a bunch of other random board games they don't care about. But if we put it in the same thing, people are like, oh, well, I kind of have to listen to this or at least skip forward past it till they get to Frosthaven. So yeah, it'll be good. And it's one of those things where if people are keen on it and want us to talk about more games that I guess we don't play a lot of other games,
yeah.
but we try to. No, but like we do want to, right?
Totally.
And if people are like, hey, that was really cool, we could put more of an effort in shuffling that around and seeing if we can get some more time in front of other games.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of do that, because I play games with my kids sometimes, so we can talk about Snakes and Ladders or Uno, stuff like that. Battleship, classic.
I was gonna say, yeah. Well, that's a good point. Is the hardest part is finding the time to then, it's like doubling up the workload and saying, okay, cool. So we got our Crimson Scales or Gloomhaven 2.0 stuff in the future, etc. But then don't forget Wednesdays and Thursdays, we're going to play 2 games of Twilight Imperium, and we're going to play Spirit Island. That for the other episode of amDirt that we're going to run. I'm already like sweating at the idea of editing more of that kind of stuff. But,
yeah. It'd be cool to see if people are keen on hearing us ramble about how bad we are at other games.
Oh yeah, no doubt. We will be dirt, like amDirt.
Yeah, I mean, I had like amDirt moments in game of TI where I just like couldn't roll 4s, like on a D8, 10, D10. Need to roll 4s. That's it, 4s.
Yeah.
I've just kept not rolling 4s, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this is good. This just means I lose. So it's make sure we bring amDirt into everything we do.
Absolutely. And you did. Nulls for days. Consistency. It's very important. All right, let's talk about scenario 19. So scenario 19 was, we'll talk about the city events going into it. So I had city event 24. I don't expect you to remember any of these until I trigger your memory. But a dude, basically a really dude, a mean dude. All right, I'm going to go with mean dude. He was a Valrath, and he wanted us to move boxes, and he said he was going to pay us like really well for doing it. And then when we finally did it, he kind of shortchanges us and gets all like, haha, you get what you pay for, and all of that kind of stuff. And then our options essentially were, we can either kindly request what we were promised, or we can beat the shit out of him. And there was almost no hesitation to beat the shit out of someone, which I feel, if there's an option to beat the shit out of someone, you are going to wonder about the repercussions of what that would be in
Mm,
a traditional sense, but because this guy was so smug and a bit of a dickbag, it was almost like an instant beat him up, right?
that's it. Yep.
And we beat him up, and then we ended up getting money out of him, and it was great. So,
Yep. That's it.
like way more money.
And no remorse.
No remorse. And then when it came to money splitting up, because everyone was like, I might retire today. I might retire today. It was just like, let's just funnel all the money into the people who aren't retiring, which was you. So you actually, bit of a swindler there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think I was retiring because the first scenario didn't have any of the things in it that I needed to kill.
Ah, so true, so true. So yeah, the Gaz retirement fund was getting
Yep.
filled
It
up.
was building up. Yep.
We had our road event, which was 56. This was Holopact Bowl, basically. We ran into the Holopact. This was the retirement event that went back in, I believe. And he was dueling a young apprentice or a protege or just a flat out newer version, fresher, younger, and all of that. And we had, he basically looked at us and was like, well, you guys don't interfere. This is, my thing. And then the two options were try to calm him down and be like, no, you can both be cool holopacks. There's more holopacking for everyone. Or we can just watch and observe.
Mm.
And I got to choose, and I was just like, look, I don't really want to get involved. Listen to the guy. Let's just watch. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And then old Daddy, past Daddy, takes out the holopats by, I think, smashing him in the chest and breaking his purple chest piece or whatever, and he just absolutely disintegrates and was like, whoa, don't fuck with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
It's weird because that was I think the good option, right? That was the good option where, yeah, we got $12 for it. It was no effect if we interfered or tried to calm them down. But from a thematic point of view, this is one of the few ones that I would love to have heard Fortella's retelling of this with the special effects and, the fighting and the voices and all of that. This was like one of the few that visually I could see it, and it was very cool. It was very cool.
Well, maybe like the next level up of Fortella is like little animated cutscenes.
Yeah, I mean, there's AI
Each
for that, right?
event.
They can just.
Well, animation can't be that hard if you're really good at it.
Aren't you doing animation?
Me?
Yeah.
No? What do you mean?
I thought ages ago you were meant to have like animate little Daddy and a little Gaz in the bottom so that we could have, we didn't have to do the podcast with our actual people. We could just have little, South Park style mouths opening up when we were talking.
I think that was suggested before we started recording video. Yeah, to put with the podcast. So I never looked into it because I think we decided no, we didn't want to look like South Park.
Why not?
Or isn't it either South Park or like Anime Girls? That'd be the option, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah. There's a lot of YouTube channels, I think, for Genshin and all that, where they don't actually show the person, but they've got a little avatar of what they wish they look like, and then
That's it. And I don't think any of them are male, right? Like they're all.
Well, the voices aren't.
Well,
Sorry,
I
the
don't
voices
think
are, is what I mean.
Oh, okay. I don't know. All right. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, no, that's not what we're doing. But yeah, very cool. Cool scene.
Yep.
And then we moved on.
And then we moved into the scenario. So, following a lead from the den of monstrosity, which I don't really remember what that was, we tracked down a nearby building linked to Athen Treden, the old man who keeps getting grumpy at us, his tangled notes. And we uncovered a high-tech lab humming with mana-charged machinery and elemental storage tanks. Around the room, demons and vermlings hang suspended in energy bubbles, clearly being used as fuel. This is pretty cool, right? An Aethelus appears and then spots us, and without a word slips through a rift, as they do. And it deactivates the machines, as they do, and release the captives, as they do, who now immediately go, oh, you guys did this to us. And it was like, yeah, of course, wrong place, wrong time, always that kind of thing. If that wasn't enough, we accidentally trigger a pressure plate. I think it was you. Draining all of the elemental mana and leaving us with one more problem, very angry demons who think this is all our fault. So the goal of this scenario was to kill everything. It was 3 tiles that were all connected and joined by doors. And this is kind of where it's like the description of the layout as in trying to summarize it in a very quickly one is that was the best way of putting it. But you know the ones that are long, like really long, it's like tile connected by doors. I'm going to call those like gauntlet styles because it's literally like you're only following one. This is almost like a 3-room loop. You know how every house has what I would call that thing that you can run around? There's always like a part in the house that you can run around in circles. Do you have one of those?
We don't actually have one of those, no.
Oh,
but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I feel like every house I've had has had one of those.
Yeah, the house I grew up with had one of those. Yeah, there was like you could walk from like the hall, the front door hall, into the lounge, into the kitchen, into like the back hall, into the middle, and then around, and you could go
Yeah.
just a loop. Yeah,
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 because
that's it.
when you're running away from siblings or parents that are, upset with you or just messing with you, you
Or
need somewhere where
murderers.
you can outrun. Oh yeah, all that.
You've got a big one in your house.
It's pretty big. It's
Like
pretty big.
you could like hide like several people could be doing the Tom and Jerry running around style thing, and no one would even know that they're doing that.
It's funny because when Calvin and I tease him and then he chases me around the house and that playful crap. As we get into this is the
Whoa,
room
whoa, whoa! We
behind
got to
me.
keep this PG. Remember?
The room behind me is what leads part of the loop, and all my tripods and equipment's here. So every time we get to this bit, I'm like, stop, 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 stop. I'm like,
Yeah.
careful, 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 because I'm just waiting for an accident to happen.
I mean, imagine if you were both mute. You could probably keep walking around that thing without even knowing that you were doing that, and you would never find each other.
That's true. I mean, mute doesn't mean deaf.
Yeah, but you can't make you can't
We can hear the
talk.
footsteps.
Oh, true. All right. Well, if you were mute and deaf,
Oh, okay, yes, that would be fair. We'd
yeah.
never find each other, and I'd be like, Calvin's gone.
And then if you were blind, you'd probably walk into the tripods as well, but you wouldn't know because you're deaf and you wouldn't hear it.
If I was blind, I probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now with amDirt.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't limit yourself.
I'm not even about to open that can of worms. Holy crap.
No. All right. Let's go. Elementals are all angry at us and about to punch us in the face.
That's right. So the monsters in this particular one, we basically had all the demons, minus chaos demons, because they weren't created yet. This is actually when we created them. We came up with the
Did you
concept of
say
it.
at the start of the episode, hey, I can't remember if it was tongue in cheek or on purpose, but like, hey, it'd be cool if there was like some kind of demon that wasn't an element?
A new type of demon. And it
A
was
new
like
type of demon?
chaotic.
Yeah, that's right.
And you were like, chaos demons? I'm like, that's amazing. Let's go with that. So yes, it was tongue in cheek. So we had demons and we had vermling scouts, and they were the vermling experiments. Yeah, there were scouts, vermling scouts. The special rules were that the vermlings are the experiments, and they get buffed based on the number of elements that were up. All right, either strong or waning.
Yep.
And they gain one shield and one retaliate for, I believe, every two elements that are strong or waning. So there was like a formula, like half rounded up or something. And there's a pressure plate in every room. And when a character ends their turn on a pressure plate, they may consume an amount of elements based on how many of the vermlings are up. All right. So the general idea is that each room, a bunch of demons and a bunch of vermlings and a pressure plate. And there were 3 rooms. So, and the only thing that was different about them was maybe the positioning of where things were, and if there were traps in there, or hazardous terrain, or difficult terrain, or obstacles, etc. And yeah, that was basically it. Very quickly, the roll call. I've just updated our roll call because it's been a couple of weeks. So Mark was level 4 Tusks at the time. He's a support-based character who has the ability to mount his summons. So it's unique to him. Each summon has a unique effect. And then he, as a whole of playing the character, heals, grants attacks to his summons, and generally gets stuck in places, but has +1 to all complaints when he can't do anything. Accurate? Not accurate?
Yeah, that's fair. Yep.
Phil's level 6 on the gemstone. This is a Trail of Ashes character. Great consistent damage, still ridiculously tanky, barely takes any damage at all. But
complains when he doesn't take any damage.
Complains, yeah. When he tanks really well, he complains, which is a unique
He'll
character
get hit
trait.
for like 6 or 8 and be like, it's none. It's like, I mean, for the record, it means it's because it's draining his offense, but still.
Absolutely. Drains his flexibility, basically. Even though we would love to not take any damage.
Yeah, I'd love to not take any damage if it just meant that I didn't do any damage the next turn.
It's true. Gaz on a level 5 beetle. Places colonies. They work as banners with aura effects like +1 to melee or shield or retaliate, and bless ones for some strange reason, which thematically makes perfect sense.
Bees!
Has a lot of retaliate built into the character, and also granting retaliate, things like that, and some very interesting, fairly unique ways of supporting the team, I would put. And then I'm on level 5 Bleeding Claw, fairly standard cards, but they have a stronger effect based on whether I'm in a special condition, a unique condition called being sated. And it's usually tied, being sated is usually tied to a lost symbol. So there's a whole bunch of tempo control. It does hit like a truck, and it also operates around a new negative condition called Rupture, which is kind of like wound, but every time the thing affiliated with rupture moves, they take a damage. And that includes force movement as well. So, yeah, little snapshot there. So, the general flow of it was clear the room, next room, clear the room, next room, clear the room, win. That was basically it in a nutshell.
Yep. Yep, that's how it went.
First room, Gaz explodes and completes his mastery.
Yeah, that was cool, wasn't it? I got that.
What was
That
your
was good.
mastery?
It's like deal 15 damage via retaliate in a single round.
Yeah, okay. And what, the most retaliate you can stack up on yourself on average was like 4 or 5, including items, burns, things like that?
I think with my own cards, the most I can probably do is 4
Yeah, okay.
if I have an element up. Um, but I also have the armor that does an extra 3 ticks of it.
Yeah, that's
So
right. And the thing you have to work around also is that it's not ranged retaliate, is it? You have some cards that do that, but
yeah,
you have to really choose when to do that, which means that if you're jumping into a spot and things going to move away, it won't work. But we discovered that you can kind of exploit that with one of your movement and muddle two things kind of thing, which has worked out really well. You've done very well with that.
yeah. Getting him to attack me with disadvantage and still take retaliate is has worked out quite well, especially against the it's a couple of times against flame demons who are hitting, you know, reasonably hard, but have a lot of shields. So being able to push the pure damage through that way has been handy.
I think that as a master is actually really quite difficult to pull off, mostly because you're basing it off the enemy's activity. And so many times, all of us have experienced where either they're moving away or that they are not playing attack cards. That like every monster pretty much only attacks, but then they will pull their one rest card, which is like put a trap on the floor or heal or something like that, right?
Yeah, I feel like there have been moments in previous scenarios where I could have not accidentally done it, but I could have achieved it if the monsters had just pulled attack cards.
Mm.
Like yeah, you're right. And I think when Mark was still on the chained helm, there was a combination I can do to give 5 retaliate to somebody, like an ally.
Mm.
So in that case, I only need it. It only get hit 3 times, right? So but that again requires some element of like planning.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it was never really the case where it was much of a reason to do it.
No, but you did call it, I think, in the first round of this. And then the other thing was that once you have it set up, and then if we go next, you don't want us to kill everything, or you don't want us to burst everything down too much so that things stay alive. Which, if we're all critting and I'm doing my plus 8, 8 damage and knocking something out, it was kind of hard to plan around, but you pulled it off, and it was very cool. And then it was one of those things that you don't have to worry about anymore.
No, I don't. So got that one.
Um, One of the other things, I'm just doing talking points about the actual things that I remember. We popped into one of the corridors because there were 3 rooms, and 2 of them were very large rooms, and then one was a corridor. And we don't really have the greatest. Everyone doesn't have the best experience, I should put, in corridors, because a lot of the times there are things in the way. And being a heavy melee lineup, and we've obviously got colonies on the ground potentially, and then summons and all that kind of stuff. Mark really didn't have a good time when it comes to this particular corridor. He struggles to get in with the occasional, maybe he does, I think, one card that does a heal at range to top one of us off, and then the rest of the time he's struggling to get involved. And I think that was probably very much on show in this particular scenario, to the point where he cracked it and decided to loop back through the main room to then open up a door on his own because he was bored and wanted something to do. And then he proceeded to get his ass absolutely handed to him. He survived, but it was the cure for boredom, which was something that I'm mindful of every time we start a new scenario as to whether or not it's going to continue to happen.
It's tricky because it has happened a few times now, and I don't know how much it is to do with the makeup of our group or maybe the lack of flexibility in that character's big movement, right? Because this is a kind of small side note with and because it relates to this, I guess the general benefit of the Tusk's character being able to mount one of its summons is that at the start of your turn, your summons go, and the mount mechanic allows the Tusk character to basically move with the summon as it moves. So you're kind of looking at getting 2 free movement each turn. In some cases 3, but with the most of the summons it's 2. But the problem with that is that, and you get to control it, so you're not they then don't suffer the like AI do something stupid problem. But two isn't really enough usually to get like past anything,
Mm,
right? And they don't have jump. One of these new ones does, but like most of them didn't have jump. And then the other problem as well is that if he has like a big move card, like if he's got a move 4 with jump that you would usually use to like clear everything, he can't take his mount with him.
yeah.
So I think it kind of lands in this spot where, like, I've got a move jump with a move forward with jump, and I've got the lightweight boots. So I can, if I need to reposition and go like, you know what, I'm stuck. This is that scenario I stuffed up by not bringing that one card. It all would have been solved if I had just brought that one card because I could have jumped over everything and got involved. I can kind of go, you know what, this isn't working. I'm just going to reposition, right? I can pick something 6 hexes away and just be there. I don't know if that character has the ability to do that because if you do it, you leave all your summons behind.
Mm,
Look, there might be combinations of cards we don't know, so I'm sure that there might be ways of doing it. But with the makeup we've got, everyone being really heavily melee, getting in those corridors that are jam packed full of mobs, it does seem like that character struggles a little bit. And I dare say most summon characters would have exactly the same problem Mark's having it. I don't think this is a Mark problem. I think it's more of a bad combination of characters.
yeah.
And then yeah. So anyway, it's just an interesting thing to see because it's happened about 2 or 3 times now.
It, I hadn't actually thought about it from that point of view because I forget that in my head I was like, mate, you've got the easiest job when it comes to movement. Not from like just because of how much he can travel. He's always going to move his from the mount, and then he can play another bottom, which allows him to move. I forget that it takes him off the mount, right? And the only alternative to that, so he can cover great distances, but not in that situation when it's blocked up. He can play, I think a lot of his top cards, like some of the top cards are like grant a summon, move, and attack, but that's usually on top, which he can potentially then use to head into the front, but it probably won't have jump, or it probably, it also means he can't do anything else with that top unless he's moving into a position to attack. So I can sort of see the dilemma there and getting a little bit stuck.
Yeah, it seems like the character has good like utility for small tactical movement, repositioning, get yourself in position, stuff like that. But when there's like a log jam of monsters and players, and we're all melee, so we're all right in there, I think it can just get tricky.
Mm,
And then the problem is that I guess makes it even worse is he's playing a summons character. So even if he can somehow maneuver himself and his mount into a good position, I mean, 2 or 3 of his other cards that he's got are like summon dog, summon mule, summon this, summon that. Like you can't play them because they're just going to get stuck at the back as well.
yeah,
So yeah, it's a bit of I can see the dilemma there, and it could just be a bad combination again of characters and scenarios that we've been doing.
sure.
But yeah,
Yeah, okay.
anyway, but yes, he did go to find fun, and he found a door, and then everything attacked him. But he
Mhm.
had played a card that means he takes the damage instead of his mount, so everything came up and punched him. But everyone survived.
Yeah, like just. And then all of a sudden he was
Just
like, help, I need healing, help. You guys coming in to help me. And it's like, well, you wanted something to
okay,
do.
I'll
Now
say.
you have something to do. I played around a new card that I got because I leveled up level 5 before this. And one of them was like, attack 8 or something like that. And I was like, oh, another one of those. But if I was sated, it minus 4s to it and I don't end up burning it while maintaining sated, which I thought was interesting. But there was another card that I wanted to try that was Voracious Hunter, which puts up 3, it's a persistent card, permanent persistent, that has 3 ticks of it. And it's got an attack 3. And then every time I kill something, I do a move 3, attack 3. And I used that in that corridor room, and it felt fun, and it was reminding me of Kelp gameplay, because the Kelp had the Grim Trophies. I think it was Grim Trophies. That was the card. Move 1, attack 1, and you do that based on how many of the tokens you move off. So that was my first feeling of playing with that, and I only get to do it a couple of times. It's all based on whether or not things die, but that was actually fun.
Mm.
Yeah, it was fun. I'll get into the diaries on the Bleeding Claw and maybe some final thoughts on it when we get to that. But that was something that I thought that I wouldn't be able to get off, and then have since gotten it off, I think, twice over 2 scenarios and enjoyed both times. So that was pretty cool. And then, yeah, basically the last room was just a Dead Infill launching into the last room. It's a fairly clean clearing of the room. I exhaust. Mark squishes a few of your bugs, which was really cool. Gave him something to do. You took a bit of damage for that. You loot the chest, which was amazing. It was like a heal and be poisoned, which was more. I mean, it was very you. You like
Yeah,
that, right?
I do. I would have liked it earlier.
And then we basically celebrated the victory. It was scenario over. And talking points like the theme of getting stuck, we've already just gone over that a little bit. So that, and you're right, is it composition. The composition of our lineup is changing. It was about to change quite dramatically, but now it's going to change a little bit. And we'll get to see how that moves forward, right?
Yeah, and I think that the other thing as well, we've had a couple of scenarios where there have just been these smaller rooms with lots of monsters. Like that first room we opened, which is like the corridor-shaped room. I mean that, well, off the top of my head, had maybe six monsters in it, which in a smaller room is quite a lot. Because I think there was like two or three of the vermlings, a shadow demon, a light demon, and maybe something else. So
Flame.
it's like, yeah, like there's a lot going on there for us to fit six monsters, four characters, some summons, right, plus some obstacles and whatnot. Like it just, yeah, it's not a good time.
No. Well, I mean, some of us are having a good time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not fun. I'm just saying it's like it's tricky to get everyone in there doing things and not be in people's ways,
True.
right? And even as people want to, the other problem we're finding is that you can get people in there, but then you kill something, and then someone else is like, "Oh, well, I can't do anything now." It's just like, yeah, okay, but like if I didn't kill that, then I couldn't do anything. Like
Yeah.
it's, so yeah, it's tricky.
I mean, that is built into, I guess, some of our communication that we've learnt over the 2.5 years now that we've been doing this. That, okay, Phil, what are you doing? You're hitting that? All right, I'm going to hit this.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and that will help alleviate a little bit of that.
yeah.
The elemental puzzle, because this was heavily, well, implied in the special rules regarding how it buffs up the vermlings and all of that. What's interesting about this and probably our party makeup is that we've got two people that aren't running around with elements that don't use them. And we also had, I think, the chain guard earlier that didn't have them. And was there another one as well? No, Galaxy had and all that. But there's
Galaxy
actually,
Hat, I didn't use it much.
yeah, we've had 3 now out of, I don't know, 7 or something that haven't really had much to do with elements, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because I'm looking back at our Frosthaven playthrough, we had the Drifter. And then that was it, like for a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, until you got to like the trap maybe, and then the prism. Like they're the ones that I remember not really caring about elements.
Yeah, which when you've got elemental demons as well, and you've got special rules that play around them, is just interesting that we didn't have a lot of ways to either abuse it but also have it backfire on us. And
Yeah.
it's lucky that because we have two people that do have elements, that you guys happen to synergize as well with your elemental usage, which is lucky.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that as if you've got someone who makes like makes elements a lot, then you potentially, I don't know, get yourself into trouble, right? If you go early and on your turn, you move, do an attack, create dark, right? Just randomly if that's your character. Well, now all of the vermlings have one shield, one retaliate.
Yeah.
So anything, and I think that actually happened to us, right? Because I might have created an element when I went early. I created fire, and then you were like, oh, but then you were going for one of the vermlings, which I think you could still kill anyway. But I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't need the fire, whatever. I don't care. I'm like, oh wait, but hang on. Like this is a problem now. So yeah, it does create a little extra puzzle, and it's something that we didn't really have to deal with much, but I could see certain group compositions like struggling. Well, not struggling, but making it harder.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting puzzle. I have one question at the end of this one. Every week we talked about how you're still figuring things out with the beetle. It's fair to say that you've got a really solid feel of what you're doing now.
Yes and no. I feel like a little bit of that like imposter syndrome. Like it seems like it's working, but I still don't feel like I know why. Like in The Simpsons when Homer shuts down the nuclear meltdown, it's like, well, which button did you push? It's like Mo. right? Like, I feel like it's a bit like that. I'm doing things and it seems to be working, but I'm like, I don't know if I know why.
Yeah, okay.
So,
It's interesting
eh,
because you seem to also in the situations in the past when someone's fighting one or two creatures, right? You don't want to leave them. You want to help them finish it off. We've gotten used to the part where right now where you're like, that's okay. I'm not gonna attack this guy because my attacks are garbage, but I'll just stand here and just it'll eventually die. You guys move on, and we're like, okay, that's fine. We'll go and do that. Like you've got a role. It's almost like I'm gonna leap into the back line, and then I'm just gonna just stand here and do
pretty much.
nothing. And then it's a really interesting. It's not like I'm gonna stand here and shield and smash this and stun this. It's just I'm gonna stand here and just when you're ready, come in and we'll deal with all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's one of the things that I'm trying to do a little bit is when we're starting a turn with a lot of monsters on the table, that I will put myself in a position early that means they attack me and not everyone else.
Hmm.
It's a little bit though of trying to figure out in what instances do we need to do that? Because like taking damage for no reason doesn't make sense. If something's moving two, attacking four, but the move two doesn't get it within range of anyone, or I don't need to put myself in a position to take a hit. So it becomes this tricky thing of like sometimes there might actually be benefit for me going later and waiting for everything to go forward, and then I can be in position for the next turn and be next to them. Because I think
Hmm.
a few of my cards benefit from me not having to move, of me just being around things. So yeah, it's a little bit of a puzzle there. But which is again made tricky because everyone wants to go lightning speed, right? Like everyone wants to go first.
Everyone does.
And then they go first and then they die. They get hit for like 12. And then you're like, oh, that's a bit shit, but oh well.
Hmm.
But then you can go invisible. Mark's mounting up on the first turn. Phil's just standing there doing his buff stuff.
Prepper.
So I probably, yeah, that's it. I probably, if we're going to play this for much longer, I really need to start evaluating the first room and work out, do I even need to go anywhere near the monsters? Or
Probably
where
not.
do what do I need to tank versus what's really not going to be a threat?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Well, what were your thoughts on scenario 19?
like I quite liked it. I think it was fine from a playing perspective, as in like it was fun.
Hmm.
Not heaps of fun and not fun, but it was fine, right? Like it was in the middle. I was like, yeah, this is fun. But I really liked the design of the element thing. Like I thought that was really cool. So it didn't really seem to make much of a difference because I don't think they ever really got above one shield, one retaliate. And because you've got so much access to the pressure plates, I think you can kind of clear that if it became a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of like the idea of it and playing around like, a simple rule
Yes.
like
It
that.
wasn't overly
Uh,
complicated and
mm,
convoluted. It was quite easy to grasp.
yeah. So yeah, but no, overall, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah. I think it had the potential to be spicy, depending on a lot of it would be RNG based on what the demons are pulling and whether or not they're creating a lot of elements. It's RNG based, well, not random, but it's more going to be based on your party composition. If you have a lot of elemental characters that spend a lot, but also create a lot, that would add to a lot of the spice that. Because you've got elements up that the demons will then be using to buff their own abilities, but it's also making the vermlings tankier, right? So
Yeah.
it's like a double-edged kind of sword when it comes to timing and tempo and elemental usage. Because if you can get them also up while you're up, and especially if it's a character that I don't know if we've seen many. I think you might be one that synergize with two elements. So if they're both up, you all of a sudden get a Super Saiyan turn. That could have made it interesting and for both ways, from a difficulty point of view and from a fun point of view.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would have liked to see it and just like to really dial up the elemental affinity with the vermlings and that ability is have something like at the end of every turn, if there's an element like a fire demon up, generate fire. If there's an earth demon up, generate earth. Right? Just have that so that you go into the next turn. They'd all be waning because they would be created and then they drop down at the start of the next turn. So they're not going to be around for ages. But it just means that it really makes it about killing the demons first, not the vermlings.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the problem is the vermlings were kind of the special thing in the scenario, but they really needed a turn or two for the demons to like RNG them power up.
Mm.
And I know that they're not supposed to be the boss or anything, but it would have made them more deadly if they've only got like 7 HP or something like that, right? Elite. But having 2 or 3 shields from the get-go and 2 or 3 retaliates really means you need to kind of focus down types of demons.
Yeah.
So it just makes the scenario have a bit more strategy to it rather than just like, well, just kill whatever in whatever reason, and we'll just hope that they don't generate elements.
Yeah.
Right. And if you did it that way, again, it makes the pressure plate even more important. Right,
Yeah.
because in that first room, if you've got 2 or 3 vermlings in, but like there's going to be 3 or 4 elements up, then you need to get on that pressure plate. Whereas as it stood, I stood on one for 2 turns, but it didn't really make any difference.
Well, it wasn't relevant for the rest of the scenario, basically, after that first
Yeah,
time.
yeah. So I mean, it does superpower the elementals up because it means they're probably always going to have the element that they want to do it. But again, I don't think that's a bad thing. It just makes it you have to plan around it a little bit more, and it would be more interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, something like that to really just steer into that curve and that kind of theme would have been cool.
Hmm.
But overall, I think it was good.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I think demons are probably my favorite monster. I think that because that they are all different from a flavor point of
Mm.
view, and they all have the different elements that they're working with, and they all have different play styles, whether it be the advantage, disadvantage on night demons, or the shielded light demons that he can hit like a truck because they always hit with advantage, to the flame demons who have crazy high shield and apparently put traps down and hit also really hard. Like, yeah, I just love the variety of them, and when you've got a scenario that literally uses all six, right, and it's balanced because there's earth demons in there as well, like. I just enjoyed it. Having all six out there just keeps it spicy. And, in those rooms, there was one of each in a lot of situations. And you've got something a little bit different with each one, like dealing with the retaliate on the frost demons and the pulling ability of the wind. Like, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think demons are probably the most interesting mobs over Gloomhaven and Frosthaven. For that reason, is that they are all dangerous. I think like other than the earth demons who just seem like a big punching bag. And they can be dangerous in their own rights, but they are mostly in the bin. All of the other ones I never look at and go like, there's no good way to kill them unless you have like again, flame demons and maybe wind demons. It might be thinking of living spirits, but like having just a high amount of pure damage get you through it. But all the others, it sucks attacking a flame demon. It sucks attacking a frost demon, right? Because you just take so much retaliate damage if you don't kill it. It sucks attacking a night demon because you've always got disadvantage. You go up against a light demon and you're like, oh, this will be fine. And then it's like, oh, it always has advantage. Okay, so this is probably going to smack me for like way more than it should. So there's always seems to be something with all of them that you just go, oh. And then the wind demons, you're like, oh, they're probably fine. The pushing and pulling is not really an issue. And then they pull a disarm card and you're like, what?
Mm.
Like, so they're all high threats, which I think is a really interesting, except for Earth Demons. They're all high threats and none of them are easy to deal with. And I think I like that because it's friction that you have to solve. Like you're always having to make sacrifices to move forward. Whereas if you're fighting Vermlings or Algox or Inox or whatever it is, it's more just like just kill them before they kill you.
Mm.
Right? I know I'm not saying there's no decisions with those. I'm not trying to say that, but yeah, I agree. I think they're one of the most interesting monster variations in the Haven series.
Yeah. On earth demons, because you just made me think about them, because obviously we give them a lot of grief and they're in the bin, right? I think we've always looked at them in isolation. But when they're there with the others, because they do have that immobilize and they're just health sponges, they're not a priority to burst down, but they're there because they're going to soak up hits from the other ones. The other was the priorities. But if they can land that immobilize, which they do sometimes, they're almost like the support demon, which kind of makes sense to go with the others.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you leave them by themselves, they can be annoying. I think the thing is that pretty easy to burn down if you focus them, but I guess then you're wasting turns dealing
Mm.
with 18 health. Like, look, they're a good design. I'm not like they're not in the bin because from a design perspective, they're in the bin because they just never seem to cause that many problems compared to a lot of the other monsters in, say, Frosthaven, which is what we did a monster tier thing for. But 100% they can be annoying in the right circumstances.
Mm.
And yeah, I haven't thought about that. Like them as a support demon, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to spend 2 turns wailing on this idiot,
Yeah.
right? I'll just take AoE attacks and immobilizers and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, it's almost like when I think we had this on a past scenario before. You open a room and on the right there's 3 Earth demons, and then there's a bunch of stuff on the left. It's like, but if they're tied in with a bunch of other scary monsters as well, then it's a bit like, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
That was the ooze one, and I 100% believe if they were in our way, it would have been way harder. But because they were off to the side, everyone just ran past them,
Mm,
right? And it was like, oh, we can just tank these in the corner. That's fine.
yeah.
But yeah, if they're put in the way or they're there that you have to interact with them in some way, then they can be effective. So
Omi.
I don't think he does very well. It's too chaotic in that first room. Although,
I mean, in our situation, the first room wasn't really an issue, like because
yeah,
you retaliated and everything died. I think by round 2 we had cleared it almost, and
that's
then
right.
and then we
Yeah,
got stuck in the second room, which means he would also have difficulty getting in
yeah.
with our party
Yeah,
composition. I reckon he might have been all right.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the way we cleared it, I think he's fine. Yeah.
I think he would step on a lot of bugs though. Not, you know.
Oh, definitely Ormi would be. I no, I'd hate Ormi. So yeah.
And then at the end of this scenario, we retired me. Then
Hmm.
we retired Gaz. Sorry, we retired
Hmm.
Mark.
Yep.
So we retired the 2 of us, and then because we were still at the house, we wanted to do our unboxings the way we normally do, take our time with them. I wasn't about to rip open new characters and get them all set up for the next scenario. We decided to go one more. Mark and I leveled up. Mark respect completely because he was just having a sad
Yeah.
time, and he wanted to, we said to him, just respect your characters to how you want it and just have some
Mhm.
fun because you're retiring anyway. See whether or not there's actually fun to be had in this. And then we got ready for the next scenario, which was scenario 23.
Yep.
So we start off with our city event. We always go back to Thingy, the Haven place, Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven.
Yeah, that place. We always go
Ick.
back in between scenarios to do a city event, even if it's a link scenario, just because why not? That may change, obviously, when we do our Gloomhaven run, because we'll probably do that one a lot more seriously.
It's probably a disclaimer, right? There's probably some people watching this going like, "You guys are getting pretty loosey goosey with the rules, right?" And we're not from a like we're just cheating and changing things. But there are aspects of like we want to get through content. We want to see more of the game. We want to experience more of the game. And so like we might draw exactly this. We might draw events when we probably shouldn't, but because we want to see more of them, right? We want to push people through, like giving Mark a free respec. We didn't break the rules in regards to what cards he could choose, but we're just saying like just change your cards over as if you'd leveled up a different way to see if you'd like it that way.
Hmm.
And I don't do that in our proper playthrough of 2.0, and we didn't do that in Frosthaven. But we're kind of in a space with Crimson Skies, like we want to see a bit more of it,
Yeah.
and we don't have long. So it's kind of like, how do we not rush through it, but just open up the doors so that we can,
Yeah.
see it all.
And hand on heart, I think we can both agree that we played Frosthaven as legitimately as we possibly could. And every time we had made a mistake regarding, frost demons, frost imps,
Yeah.
or snow imps, or any of that, we rectified that, as we were reporting on that on our pod.
Yep.
If we had a force link or something, we would always do that. Like, yeah, this is just the
Yeah.
exception.
That's it. And that's the thing, is that the game rules in the scenario for CS, we are playing properly, or as well as we know them. Look, most of the times when we cheat, we're cheating and making it harder for ourselves, right? That's just our way. So yeah, I think that's the other thing to know. But yeah, anyway, continue. So we got a city event.
Yeah. So 31, while exploring the upscale Travelers District, we came across the sprawling mansion of Sir Kenhaven, one of Gloomhaven's wealthiest Valrats. Intrigued by its grandeur, we quickly interrupted by 2 stern guards demanding to know what we're doing there. Apparently, loitering near a mansion like that attracts attention. So we can either explain to them we had gotten lost, or we can request a tour. And you wanted to beat the shit out of them and take their uniforms.
Yeah, why was that not an option? That's always the option, right? Like,
It is in
steal their
video
uniforms
games.
and pretend to be guards.
It is in video games, it is in Hitman, and it is in movies. But not in
But
this.
not in Haven, apparently.
No. So we asked for a tour, and it actually unlocked a scenario, Mansion's Maze. Or the Mansion
That's right. That one
Maze.
sounds really cool.
It does sound cool.
I would do that, but now we have to do my stupid retirement one.
Well, we don't have to.
We kind of do.
We seem to be drawn to the mansions and the big castle on the hill kind of scenarios. I think for some reason we were just as excited for My Private Empire from Frosthaven when we first got that one. It took us a while to get to do it, but We like those ones.
Yeah, we do.
We had Road Event 2 after that, which was we found a dead rat and we were hungry. And then do we eat the dead rat or do we not eat the dead rat? And then Phil was like, eat the rat. And then was like, oh, okay, what could possibly go wrong? But apparently we had a vermling in the party. The rat was the most healthiest, scrumptious. We were just so full. We were happy. It was amazing. And we all started with strengthen, which makes
That's
perfect
it.
sense.
Yep. Yep. So
Scenario 23, Icicle Chambers. We, following directions from the abandoned Aether Lab, so this is continuing on from the one we just completed, I believe. We headed into a gloomy ice cave high in the Copperneck Mountains, apparently the size of some kind of mutated demon, the site of some kind of mutated demon activity. Following that Aether that disappeared through a rift. The cave is dark, eerie, and full of unknowns. Just as we begin to settle our nerves, we hear a disturbing wheezing growl nearby. Whatever's in here, it's not alone. Scenario is complete when everything is dead. So this scenario also featured the chill condition, which was a new negative condition that we hadn't had yet. I don't think we had experienced at all. We've had things like toxic and rupture and all of that kind of stuff, but this was chill. And chill is a negative condition. And when it's applied to a figure, it causes them to have a penalty of -1 to all of their attacks and their move abilities for each chill. So it stacks, basically. And a figure can remove a instance of chill, one chill, at the end of each of their turns. And if a figure is immune to immobilize or muddle, which obviously has got to do with the monsters, it's also immune to chill. So for this particular scenario, the special rules, in addition to just having chill, was that any character can forego a top or a bottom ability from one of their cards to remove all of their chills
yeah.
from themselves or a summon that they own within range 2. And yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, and this is also the scenario from a new point of view that also introduced 3 new monsters that we hadn't seen yet that was going to work around this whole chill mechanic as well.
Yeah. Well, and I'm keen to know as we play through more, or find out. Interested to find out if the chill mechanic is always going to have that like scenario rule. Use the top action to get rid of chill, because it seems like I'm hoping that this was kind of like a baby's introduction to chill. Right, here it is. If you get yourself in a lot of trouble, don't worry. You can just discard an action basically to get rid of it all, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas when we get further into the chilling land, then it'll be like, nah, you're on your own now. Like, you got to figure it out. Just don't get chilled.
I think it'll be balanced around. I agree with you. I have a feeling it's not going to have that. I don't think scenarios are always going to have to remove everything. If it does, it would kind of make it easy. But I also think it's going to be counterbalanced by the monsters that apply chill, in that there's not going to be too many crazy ways of applying chill. So it's not going to be a situation of bolt shooters that have innate chill that are targeting 4, and there's 4 of them in a room. That all of a sudden has given everyone in the room 4 or 5 stacks of this stuff, which is going to take forever to remove.
Can you imagine them drawing that like rapid fire one where they all target the same person? It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go early and shoot you 4 times and give you -4 move, -4 attack. Good luck, have fun.
Because that would be messed up. You'd have 3 or 4 turns of just I do nothing because I can't move, and my attacks I'm healing everything basically.
Imagine if you got hit by 2 of them. Like, and you can't get rid of it. It's 1 per turn. There's no other way. You have -8 to everything, and then you'll slowly tick down. You'll be like, oh, well, guys, I guess I'll just go home. Oh, wait, I can't because I can't move.
Yeah. It'd be interesting if there's a character that also uses chill, and how exploitive will that be? Because it can't, if you're doing AoE chill everything over and over again, potentially, it looks really strong in the hands of a player.
It does look really strong. Yeah, you're 100% right. I feel like there's got to be something that can apply it, but I reckon that it'll be less available than Rupture was on the Bleeding Claw, right? Like, you could rupture things fairly well, right, with some herbs. I reckon it'll be less than that, because Rupture doesn't do anything most of the time. Right, you have to work for it to do something. Whereas it chill, just be like, everything here, just do 1 less damage.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So
then in monsters, we had Frozen Cadaver. which was basically a reskin of the Living Corpse. We had Hail
Mhm.
Demons, reskin of Wind Demons, and we had Harrower Ice Crawlers, which are reskin of Harrower Infestors. And as far as we could tell when we started this scenario, they all had, I think, the same stats and the same innate things. None of them had innate chill or anything like that. So we didn't really know what to expect. We just knew it was going to come in the form of their ability cards. So let me just give you a nice snapshot of how this scenario went. And if you've seen the video, it went like this. All right. Gaz sets up blessed bees. Everyone munches bees while the monsters make their way over. All right, that's step one. Mark summons gorilla. All right. Phil summons the blink blade. Okay. Then it went crit, 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 open door, crit, 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 open door, crit, 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 win. And then we won. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think there was a couple more crits in between door one and door two.
A couple. Yeah, I've got numbers on them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the thoughts, right? The thoughts, and I'm just jumping straight to the thoughts of this. Chill is a thing, all right?
Mm.
Chill is a thing, but I wouldn't really know, all right? I think there were chill traps in here that would apply the chill. And the monsters, they did have some abilities that were targeting units with chill. I think the Harrower had a card that was like, anyone who attacks the Harrower who had a built-in retaliate will receive chill. But other than that, I don't really know. And I don't really know how to feel about this scenario because I think the scenario was robbed
By the crit bees.
by crit bees.
Okay, so let's talk about these things in isolation. I think the scenario was very vanilla and fine. It's again, if it's just introducing chill, it's a pretty basic scenario. Attack move to the end, and then just don't get messed up. Uh, n- I mean, wind demons and living corpses aren't exactly like super crazy badass. Harrowers can be. They can be yuck, I think, at higher difficulties or if they get the wrong card. So so it has the potential of just being like a lot of damage and a little bit annoying, but I don't think it's particularly tricky. That's why I thoughts on that. Firstly, just as the scenario, ignoring the crits, ignoring the chill, but just as the scenario as a
Yes,
whole, what do you
in
think?
isolation. Scenario as a whole, like I'd play it again. Because
Is that because you missed it the first
I,
time?
I, I blinked and I missed it the first time, and I really don't know what
Yeah.
to think. I think that the monsters are interesting. I actually think that they're very interesting. Again, I don't think we got to see them to their full potential. But I mean, it was a 4-tile gauntlet. This is the gauntlet style of open door, go down corridor,
Mm.
open door, and I think that there was the way the monsters were split up with the first room having the living corpses or the frozen cadavers and the harrower ice guys. And then the next room had the wind guys, right? The hail demons. And then I actually can't remember the last room at all. I know that I think Phil went in and used one of his new cards, which was like jump into the middle and AoE everything. And then, I was
Yeah.
prepping outside the corridor before I came in and one shot something else. And it was just,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like that. It's hard to, I think that this could actually potentially be fun, like
Mm.
actually a fair bit of fun to play. And
Well, I mean, it
quite
was pretty
and
fun to
difficult.
play, right? Like everything was dying all the time, and
Yeah.
the timing of how when we got it was fine as well because it was our second scenario for the day. People were getting a bit tired. We probably didn't want a grindy scenario. It was kind of good that it was over, stuff like that. So it probably wasn't that bad from that perspective. But yeah, there wasn't much interaction with it.
No.
Anyway, that was kind of my second point, right? So the first one's scenario as a whole. Second one was the monsters. Now, I think you're 100% right. We didn't really get to see what they do. I feel about these monsters and chill the same way I do about the toxic monsters and toxic. I really like the design of toxic and chill. I think they're cool and they're different. And it's like, I don't know, when you play with the same conditions for so long, having new ones is fun. Kind of like when we got Ward and Bane and I don't know what's the other one, whatever else we got in Frost 7, right? I love that these have been brought in because I think they're cool. The problem is that the monsters that they have them on want you to have the condition in order for them to do something that's interesting. And that then comes down to that RNG thing, right? So I'm surprised that we haven't fought things, and I'll put the toxic. I'll ignore the toxic ones for now. But just looking at this one here, I'm surprised that like the hail demons didn't just have innate chill. Now I don't know if that's too powerful. Maybe they tried that and they were like, oh, if it draws its multi attack thing 2 or 3 times in a row, everyone's just wrecked.
Mm.
But there definitely needed to be some chill element. Whether that was at the start of everyone's turn, they gain chill, right? Because you're cold. I know that messes everyone up because then you get that. This is the problem with chill, I think, is that if you put it too much in, it wrecks you. Toxic's different because it can just completely mean nothing. So I think toxic works as a catalyst element or condition to enabling monsters to do cool shit because you could just not have shields and then therefore you don't care about toxic, right? But then you care about getting rid of it because then now the monsters are going to do crazy stuff. Whereas at chill, you just don't want it at all, right? Because it's making you move less and attack less. So it kind of means that the game can't jam more in.
That's true.
I don't know. Do you get where I'm going with it?
100% get where you're going with. Exactly. Well, it's also taking away, okay, immobilize takes away movement, but it's one instance of it, right? And you can almost play around that. But chill is going to remove that element of movement as well. But for some reason, it's also removing the attacking portion. You know, it's neutering both. And as you have said before, movement is one of the least fun aspects of the game, right? So I think there's a clear distinction between something like immobilize and something like chill from maybe a fun factor, from a design factor. I mean, do you know how many times we got hit by a chill?
Nah, I have no idea. I once.
Once. We had one person, I think, from memory, I could be wrong, one instance of it that I can clearly remember, and that's because you walked over a chill trap.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I was like, oh no, trap, and then you're like, it's chill one. I was like, oh, well, no, that's it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. Oh, that's fine. I can do that, right?
Yeah. Although now I remember the Hail Demons actually did use chill as a trap, actually. They put them down, except the living cadavers, whatever they were, they walked into them and chilled themselves. So I can sort of see a world where, yeah, they potentially could have just littered that up
Yeah.
and we would have copped some then. But other than that, it was a no anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So I don't know. Look, I think the jury's still out. I don't know because we did crit our way through the entire scenario. Like nothing really sort of chance. In saying that we played well, like the other thing as well, we did kind of coordinate reasonably well and just get through it. So it's a combination of we played well and got good RNG, and therefore nothing really had a good chance to stop us. But I'm keen to see if chill is a fun mechanic or if it's gross. Because at the moment it seems meh, but I feel like it's something if you push too hard, it makes the game not fun. Right?
Yeah.
Like having -1 to move and -1 to attack is not fun. It's
No.
not that's not a muddle. Muddle is something you're like, oh no, RNG can now screw me. But just minusing to your stats is just that's like a just don't have a turn. Right? It's same problem why I think stun's not fun.
Yeah.
Right. It needs to be in the game, that's fine, but it's not fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's that part, I think, which will be interesting to see. So hopefully we see more chill.
Yeah. So Mark Respect, he was in a DPS form, basically, with a couple of his similar supporting cards, and he's still running around with Talos stuff, which allows any self-healing to go onto a mate within range 3. So he's got some of that. But he's now fully mastered the tasks. So he's unlocked its full potential right now. It was all locked behind a paywall or a level wall of level 5, which is the Gorilla, which has a movement of 3. It can jump. It heals whenever it kills something, and apparently, does a lot of critting. And now he's really, really happy. And it was funny because he was saying, oh, I don't really want to retire this now because I'm having so much fun and it's so good. And, a bit
Be
of
careful what you wish for.
Yeah. I took notice. Oh, yeah, go.
I was going to ask then. So with that in mind, do you think are we going to do a little bit of a class diary after this?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I guess the question is, do I keep playing crit bees?
I mean, it's up to you what cards you bring, right? They're...
I mean, the problem is the bottom of that card is like critical to me playing because it's a heal 5 and regen on myself, right?
Yeah.
So like the card is 100% coming.
I mean, don't fall into pressure. Don't feel like you have to, play exactly a certain way.
Oh, We'll talk about it with the class breakdown.
All
Yeah.
right. So Daddy takes no responsibility. I've gotten to a thing where I don't shuffle my own deck anymore. I shuffle it and I immediately get someone else to cut it. And I was doing it with Phil, and it was amazing because he kept putting my crit in the top two. And there's no way we could doctor this because I was shuffling on camera, handing it to him, and he was trying different variations of cutting it. And every time, at least for the first couple of times, he was putting that chill within the top two cards. So that was amazing. The crit, sorry. Great. You didn't use your amD once.
Didn't I? Oh, I thought. Did I? Yeah, I didn't do it at all.
I don't think
I?
you did once
No,
in that
I
whole
don't think so.
scenario, which was really interesting, which is also why when you were blessing yourself, it was like, I might not take it because I'll
That's
let you
right.
guys
Yeah,
take
it was, wasn't it? It was May because I looked at it and said May. I'm like, no, I'm not going to take this because like I'm not. I don't plan on attacking. In fact, I think I've taken all my attack cards out of my deck.
Yes.
Oh no, the only one I've got is anti venom, but that's just there because it heals me.
You're not doing it for the hit.
No, no.
All right,
So,
I got some stats here very quickly. How many crits do you think occurred in that scenario from us?
okay. I'm going to say 12.
You're very close. Yeah.
I was overestimating. Oh, that's not good. What was the answer?
14.
14.
14 crits, right? That's
How
going to
many-
basically trivialize any scenario, I think.
How many of those were natural versus how many were blesses? Do you know?
I didn't go that deep, but
No. But I'm just curious because that's like yeah, that's fine. That makes sense. But I'd be keen to know because the blesses that would determine whether we got really like if like it's 7-7, right? Where like 7 were natural crits, then that's got nothing to do with bless bees. But if it's like I don't know, 3 naturals and 11 like crit bee blesses, then
From a loose memory, most of my early ones were natural because I only getting one bless from you. So, and Phil kept cutting my nat because he knows how to put the nat near the top. So that was that. And then out of the 14, I'm not including the one round where Phil hit with advantage and pulled 2 blesses. All right, so that's one instance of crit. So technically, there might have been a 15 in there.
yeah, okay. So we drew 15. Yeah, okay.
So
makes sense.
out of the 3, because you didn't use your AMD, who crit? How many people? Like out of the 14, what's the breakdown between the 3 of us?
Oh, all right. I reckon you did 3. I reckon Phil did 6, and that means Mark. No. I did. Phil did 5, which puts us at 8, which means I reckon Mark did 6.
Very close again. So Mark crit 5 times, Phil crit 5 times, and I crit 4 times.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice. Very even.
So out of how many attacks? Sorry, I mean, I don't expect you to remember this. This is just the amount of flips, and I had a piece of paper because I was about halfway through editing, and I was like, I need to write this shit down because it was just getting ridiculous. So Mark drew his AMD, like the amount of times he crit was based on how many attacks. So he hit 12 attacks, right? And that's split between his gorilla and himself, and he got 5 crits out of that. All right, it's like a 40% or something,
Yeah,
which is
pretty good rate. Yeah,
huge. Phil did 11, and he crit 5 times.
5. Okay, yeah.
All right, nearly half. And I hit 12 times and got 4.
Okay. So yours makes sense if we're adding more blesses. But the thing that throws it off is you getting your natural crit 2 or 3 times. Right, like 4 out of like what'd you say, 12 for yourself? Yeah, like that's a high amount of crits. Like that's way more. But if your deck is full of them, then it makes sense, right? But I don't think it's full of them. Well, Mark's was full of them.
Well, at the end of the scenario, Mark had 7 that he pulled out, and he said, "These are all my crits." The blesses, sorry, that he pulled out of it.
That you didn't use, yeah. So
one more. Oh, you're on 0, so you had 0 for 0, which is not bad.
I mean, it's like 100%, right?
Well, you didn't like if you're not critting, all right, but you're also not missing.
100%. I didn't pull my null. I've actually solved the problem. All of these months, I will even say years of people throwing ideas at me about how I can better avoid drawing the null, right? Items, shuffling techniques, character plays, like combinations, like all that stuff. Turns out if you just don't attack, you don't miss.
100%.
Like
you worked it out.
I've figured it out. It's only taken me 2 years.
Finally, the last bit of stats that I wanted to pull was that Phil crit each round for the first 4 rounds of the scenario. So all 4 of his each round he would attack and he crit each time. It was therefore the crit was always in the top 2 cards. He would shuffle because obviously that's what happens for the following round, and then he would crit again. And I made a comment. This is like Frosthaven again, and I was like, "This is what Frosthaven was like." Playing with him, it made a what do you call it? A resurgence. It came back. So yeah, we learned nothing from this scenario. Now I said this just in the last run through, and I'll quickly go through these. Have you finally maxed out on the potential of the beetle? Crit bees, and then that's it.
Well, do you want to go into the character, into the diaries now, or?
I've got, has Phil around the clock? We can just say yes. Has Mark turned a corner with the tusks? I think we say yes. And then let's talk very quickly about difficulty. So before this scenario happened, we were like, well, Mark's respecking, he's going more damage, and he's just unlocked a gorilla. Do we do this at +1? And I think we thought about it, and then when it comes to setting it up, I just forgot to put it in the system, so we just went with it. And also the creatures had a fair bit of health. They had 13. They had, the Harrowers had 17 on the elites or something like that. There was a lot of health to get through. It ended up becoming not really a big thing. And then we do this. We did this so many times in Frosthaven. Do we increase? Do we increase? And now I've retired, and now I'm not on the Bleeding Claw anymore, which then makes us go backwards a little bit of maybe we don't do this until,
That's the cycle we land in, right? Like we should have done it the last 2 scenarios. We didn't. Now you're retiring, so we won't. And then I'm going to be retiring at least in the next 1 or 2 weeks, so we won't. And then Mark will retire in about 2 or 3 weeks after that, so we won't. And then Phil will retire. Like, so you see the cycle we go through is we keep getting ourselves trapped in this space of like characters retiring. We don't want to do one high difficulty for the first 2 scenarios, but you get into a cycle where you're just never going to do it. So
we're gonna have to pull the trigger just randomly.
Well, we either need to pull the trigger or we need to stop talking about whether we should pull the trigger, right? But we're standing there with a loaded gun saying like, I'll do it. It's like either do it or just put the gun down and go home, right?
Like, but the last few scenarios have like been not difficult.
That's true. But the problem is, and I think we come back to exactly the same conversation, is that the swinginess of scenarios, it's so hard to figure out whether it's the right scenario to do at a high difficulty or not. Like, what did we do like 3 weeks ago where we just scraped in?
I don't remember. I think it was fucking
there was like an
ago.
escape one. I feel like there was like an escape scenario that we had to do where we had to go somewhere then get back. Or that was with the boxes.
The heist
that
one.
Might have been it. Yeah, the heist one maybe.
That was tricky.
If that was at +1, we fail.
Maybe, because that also was a special condition one, right? If we see a kill all, we should probably feel comfortable to do it, regardless of our lineup. If we see a kill all,
that's a good point.
If it's retrieve this and go into this and activate this and then bring it back, we probably go, hey, this sounds a bit tricky, right? So maybe we should base it on that. Base it on the enemy types and because I'm happy to do it next week on a brand new character. I'm happy to do it, right?
Okay. Yeah. Look, I'm on board with that. I think. Look at the character, look at the monster types, look at the scenario objective. Yeah, totally. And I think we could probably safely say most kill-alls we will be fine with doing it. And again, we get to read the special rules before we decide. So if it's something stupid like at the end of every turn discard a card, right? Then no, let's not do that. But yeah, 100%. Because, I mean, I think just as we talked about this, as you get better at the characters, it's not just so much about getting better cards, but you get better at them and your synergies get better. Like you just start steamrolling over stuff. And like, even if we go look at the elemental one that we did, the vermlings that were there, which still elites, I think had 7 health, even if they've got their 1 shield. But you and Phil alone can probably kill one of those very easily in a turn, maybe two attacks, right? And so even with 6 monsters in the room, we're getting through that really quickly, right? Because the health just isn't high enough. So yeah, I don't know. I wish there was a way of buffing health and not buffing damage, like their damage.
I mean, we could probably house rule that, but that's way too fiddly, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's no way of actually just going like, hey, let's go 1 or 2 levels increased difficulty health-wise, but not damage-wise. Because that and it's not to make up all these weird house rules, but that would make it more fun to use your abilities because it means that you have more. We've talked about this in the past. Like remember when you first started playing Shackles and you're like, this sucks because everything's dead, right? Like what's the point of throwing things out on stuff because they're dying straight away? I found that the same with something else I played. I was like, well, if everything dies so quickly, then you don't have the ability to be support-ish.
Mm.
Well, not just support, but like do different things that aren't just like pure damage or attack damage. Do attack damage. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, let's bump up the difference.
I agree. I think it'll be more fun as well. I think that it'll make us a bit more accountable. Yeah, I'm thinking back to Frosthaven when we did the collection capstone and we started doing +1s and +2s. It was brutal. It felt brutal, but we were just so much more intense. It was so much more engaged. Positioning, positionals, everything like that just it went up. So look, we should just bite the billet. You said something about the gun. Let's shoot the gun.
We've put the gun down. Let's get a bullet out and bite it.
Yep.
Yep. Question without notice.
Yeah.
If we fail, are we going to redo the scenario?
Depends on the scenario. That actually could be a good thing, actually, because if we fail, we just go to another one the following week. We can eventually, come back to it. If it's a main quest one, we're gonna have to do that. But if it's a random side one, we probably are okay mixing it up a little bit, right? Because by the time we challenge it again, we'll have different classes potentially and all of that, which could add to the variety and make it less boring.
Less boring, yeah, it's a good point.
Just don't fail, guys. We can do this.
Yeah, that's true. If we just don't lose, it's easy, right?
Exactly. All right. Just in that one, Ormi's bored as hell, so he doesn't really care about that because it was crit. Yeah, we've already done that. I'll quickly run through the PQs. So we retired. Well, I did anyway. What do we have? We had Thy Be Blessed. All right. So we revealed these at the end of the scenario. This one here was draw a blessed card 12 times during an attack, and that's what I had, which was before you had blessed bees up. I would go into the temple and throw my $10 donations in there to try and push this along, so that was a little bit more control over it. I thought this was a fun PQ. It encourages attacking, obviously, and I think that it's probably more fun on a DPS than it would be for anyone playing like a beetle, like for you, for example. It'd probably be less fun.
Oh, yeah, it would have sucked for me. Like, it would have sucked because I wouldn't have been able to play the character the way I wanted to play it.
Yeah. Because you'd have to throw those attacks out there just to get this, even if they're not meant to be impactful. But it would probably change that up a fair bit. And then, of course, you mentioned it was very heavily based on RNG, so you may never retire this.
No, that's one PQ that it's possible to just never accomplish.
Yeah, it's gross. Yours, Grave Robber, the one that you messed up. This was loot 15 money tokens in scenarios with living bones, living corpses, or living spirits. Then unlock scenario 67, which I think there's been an errata on this. It's the wrong one. And follow it to its conclusion, which is the part we haven't done yet.
No, that's just... Are you sure that's not on there with Sharpie?
No.
Yep. So yeah, that was it was interesting. So that one was one of those ones that when I picked that one up and I chose it, because I can't even remember what my other option was. I looked at this and went like, oh, okay. So far in our campaign, I would have had 0%, zero chance to progress this at all. So it was kind of a little bit like Phil's Flask one, where I'm like, I don't know how limited this is going to be. Although living bones, the zombies, and living spirits are more likely to come up than just Algox, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I did have a look at some of the scenarios, like I think maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I remember looking at what we had available and going like, okay, yeah, cool. There's at least 2 or 3 of those scenarios available within the kind of our options that we can do. Plus, it's loot, not kill, so it makes that a lot easier. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
it's interesting because you're also playing with 2 characters who have very good loot cards. Like Phil's got the move 4.
You guys kept looting everything.
So without revealing
in that last one, I actually had to say like, "Hey, can you leave that for me?"
Yeah,
right. A couple of times, I'm like, "Hey, I'm poor. Give me that."
They did amazing. The fact that you kept that under wraps was really good. I appreciate that. Like, I still didn't have an idea of what you needed to do. And every time I ask you, how's your progress going on? You're like, not good. So, it's okay. The last one was false dichotomies, which was marks. It was choose option A on an event card 8 times, choose option B on an event card 8 times. And this was one that he read as or in between the two. So he
Yeah,
had
it's an
flown
8.
through. Apparently, we've chosen B that many times. Now, someone has actually mentioned on one of our playthroughs when we went through this that it doesn't, I can't remember the exact wording of what the person said, but they just said that event thing, it just means Mark has to vote on that outcome. And I'm just like, in my head, I was like, is that how events are always supposed to be? I thought we decided that as a group of what we wanted to do.
Oh.
But he was saying, like, I vote for A and then we all choose B. Well, it counts for him because the vote's on A. And I'm not 100% sure if that's kind of how it works or if that's how we've been doing it wrong, but it is a bit strange.
Wow. So yeah, that is interesting.
Because we have not done that a single time, really, unless the
No,
actual
that's
card
never.
says vote, right?
Yeah, cool. Is that what the PQ actually says? It says vote.
No, it just says choose.
Oh, choose. Yeah.
Choose
Okay.
option A
Cool.
on the event card 8 times. Choose option B on the event card 8 times. That was it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Do you want to jump into the diaries?
Yeah. Let's do diaries. Do you want to do me first, and
Go for it.
then we can go through your cards?
Yep.
Cool. So I have this card that summons these bees, which we've been referring to. So if anyone is not sure about what we're talking about, these are crit bees. It is called Birthing Chambers. Now, the reason why I selected this card is because the bottom of it has a heal 5 self, regenerate, puts poison on myself, and gives me an XP. So I want all of those things. And the poison, it doesn't really bother me because I have another card called Anti-Venom, which basically just says heal 1. If you remove the poison, the attack now gains poison. So whether I attack or not, it doesn't matter. I've got a nice, easy top to combine with that, which means that there are turns that I can actually get myself like many healths,
Yeah.
right? Like I've got another potion that does heal 5 but poisons myself, and I've got another potion that's heal 3. So in one turn, if I'm not needing to go at any decent speed, I can give myself something in the realms of like 13 health and regen, right?
Which is something you didn't really have at the beginning of playing this character.
Yeah, exactly. If not more, depending on if elements are up. So yeah, totally. So it's a burst of self sustain with no burning required other than the items, right? So that's why I chose it. But the styles finding through the first cycle, especially if I'm not jumping in the middle of things, that I really didn't need the health. And I kind of worked out a little bit of a combination that I could do at the start of the scenario in the last one using the top of a card. So at the bottom of March of Multitudes, which is you and one ally within range 2 may perform move 3, ending in a hex adjacent to a colony token, right? Now, that goes at a 37, so it's not quick, right? It does require everyone going late. But I found if I do Birthing Chambers, the top of, which puts the bee colonies down, and anyone who starts their turn next to the bees gets to bless themselves. If I go first and I put the bees down next to 2 people, and then I move forward and make someone else move forward, all 4 of us are next to it. Now, I don't get the bee crits, but I don't care. But that means everyone this turn gets it. We have a bunch of people who don't do anything on their first turn other than stand there. So that basically means that they're getting themselves at least 3 crits are going into your 3 characters' decks.
Mm-hmm.
If not, and you just stand around and don't do anything, another 3, or if not, another 4, because Mark will summon his summon somewhere. So there's a potential that in that first turn we're getting 7 crits out there. Like, sorry, say crits, 7 blesses out there. Now, I know this isn't always going to work because a lot of the starting rooms kind of have a little bit of pressure, so you can't just sit there and do nothing. But it's not that hard to orchestrate. So yeah, it's pretty good. And then the thing is, when I combine that with the original B card, which is basically place a B down and heal 1.
Yeah.
I can then place that later in the scenario, like in that turn, like towards the end when people are resting and they've already either got through some of their crits or just need some HPs. Chuck that next to it. And now people are healing and gaining crits. So it seems pretty good.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how I feel about that particular bless bees. I like cards that have bless, right? And when it's like heal someone and they can grant bless, or attack someone and you bless yourself or whatever. I feel like I don't feel good about that for some reason. Well, it's obvious. I think that I find it too strong, especially if you park yourself next to it and you fill up decks with it. It feels like a really low effort way to just spam blesses into the AMDs. And I like that.
100%.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if I was alone on this.
No, I think it's gross as well. Like this to me is not as bad, but it's getting close to the combo that we did for that one scenario with the shards and
Yeah,
Astral,
gotcha.
right? Like it's just finding a way of min-maxing without really much effort. Like it's
Mm.
play a card. And for those that are not aware, without going into the card details, I had the ability to give myself advantage, do an attack that did damage to something, and then based on how much damage that did, it did that damage -2, I think it was, to two other things within like close range. Daddy was putting brittle on that middle thing, so I was drawing and doing massive amounts of damage to this one target, right? And then that was splitting out, and that split out damage was pure damage. So we cycled through that 3 or 4 times, and that's when we were tracking DPS, and I think I was on like 150 DPS or something like that by the end of it, which is crazy because the 8 scenarios, 10 scenarios before, I was finishing on like 12, and I wasn't doing an attack build, but that was like the one foray into that. That feels gross, and that's why I think I retired after that. I was just like, okay, I'm done. Like this, I don't need to do that anymore. This kind of feels the same way
Mm.
ish, not as deterministic because it is still putting the crits out there. It is splitting it out a little bit. You can only have 10, right? If it was
Yes.
unlimited, yes, it would be just broken. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's tricky.
I like the
It's
fact that
tricky.
it worked in this, but I think when we talk about that scenario, it was just so over because of all the crits that we were pulling, right? And that's still RNG, right? You if I got 4 crits from just being next to your thing, or Mark got them, but they're shuffled deep into an AMD that's 20 cards or so, you still need to get those out, and you still have the risk of your null, which is going to then reshuffle the deck anyway. It's
Yeah.
just we've seen now the extreme side of things when RNG is really good to you that it just it feels kind of trivial, kind of gross.
I think that we would have to count this as an outlier at
I
least a
do.
little bit due to yeah, RNG. But I would say, and it'd be interesting. Maybe I could have a quick click through the playthrough. Out of those 14, I think you said there were 15.
Mm.
I feel like at least 5 or 6 of them were natural crits, right? Because I think Phil pulled 2 or 3 natural crits, and you pulled
Phil
two or
pulls a lot of
three.
his natural, yeah.
Yeah. So like in that instance, then I mean that still means like 10 crits from blesses, right? Which is heaps, right? But maybe it's not as busted. And if we were up the curve on the pulling blesses thing in regards to RNG, then maybe when that normalizes out, it's not as bad.
Mm.
So yeah, look, I'll keep doing it because I'm only going to really play 1 or 2 more scenarios and just
Totally.
to see because I'm fascinated to see how it goes. But yeah, I think. Look, the thing is as well, that scenario wasn't as bad because I didn't need the heal, right? Like, I'm not playing that card for giving like people crits if I'm dying. I'm like, no, I'm 100% holding on to this. But yeah, it's an interesting conundrum to fall into.
Mm. No, I'm all for seeing if it again, basically, and just seeing whether or not that's the thing. Maybe we all have to, once we're shuffling our deck, give them to you to cut, and that will that mess us up.
Well, when you were handing one of the, I think I'm not sure if you caught it, but like
You cut my deck, yeah.
yeah, I cut it once and it was still fine. I didn't crit, but like that's because I'm not Phil. But
No, I think you did.
oh, did I?
Yeah, and I was like looking at you like, what? And then I started using you over him.
So yeah, I'm the budget Phil.
All right, Bleeding Claw, quick chat. I'm gonna reveal. I've got the physical cards here, so I'm gonna have a look at what level was I? 7.
Do you want to give your thoughts
Oops.
first?
Yeah, I can jump into some thoughts. Bleeding Claw's fun. It's fun. I can see why a lot of people love it. Because of the stated mechanic is kind of cool. Fairly simple to understand. Playing around the tempo of when to actually burn a card to become sated to then buff certain cards. It's fine. I think I've said this to you before. I enjoyed the Vortex more from a gameplay point of view. I'm not a massive fan of characters where you have to time certain cards at a certain point, as weird as that is, because that's literally the game, right? Is getting the most out of the cards. But I feel like because of everything's tied to a loss, you and I are very loss adverse when it comes to playing these kind of games. And we always have been. It's very hard to change your mindset when you're so used to playing a certain way. And I think the Geminate's another example of that, where you have to burn cards. And I know it's built into the character. I don't enjoy doing it. I like the freedom of saying, I would like to burn this card at this moment. I want to use White Winds on the Snowflake, the snaky thing, at the right time when I'm comfortable using it. And I feel like that agency gets kind of taken from you. It's weird, and I'm sure it's a psychological thing where it's in my head because it's the same thing. You're deciding when to use the burns. But I feel like that pressure of, well, if I don't use the burns, the rest of my cards don't get the bonus abilities or the bonus stats. So that's what makes it better instead of, I would just, it's weird. But I
Yeah,
totally can see it. And I'm not a massive fan of, I was excited for the Empower thing, but then, I'm not a fan of, I guess, the fact that it can trigger multiple times if you fill your deck and it leads to some very spiky kind of damage. I don't know. It's really hard to explain. I just enjoy the puzzle of the Vortex more with the building and spending.
yeah, yeah. I think from watching you play it, it seemed like you were having fun because you were killing stuff,
Hmm.
but it's hard to tell what's going through and how much fun there is with the puzzle side of things. And yeah, you raise a really, really good point just generally about like that agency. You don't really have control over. I mean, you're not out of it's not out of control, but you kind of have to be burning cards. And I think if I associate it with like a similar type of character but very different, is like the Spellweaver in Gloomhaven, right?
I don't like the
Where
Spellweaver either. Yeah, there you go.
But the Spellweaver you can play without burning cards
True.
because you don't get a bonus from burning them like you do with this. And I remember when I played that in digital, I played very conservatively and I would just slowly go through the scenario. And then in the last turns, I'd burn everything and then I'd use the card to recover and then burn everything again. So you had these really like, kind of like, just cruising along, and then you just spike for like 5 or 6 turns or whatever it was to do it. But that's different because you were still choosing to do that. You kind of, I guess you could play this in that way, but you don't get a benefit from burning multiple rounds because you're almost wanting to burn, be sated, be sated, then burn next round, right? And so you kind of want to stagger it,
Hmm.
which makes things interesting. So yeah, it's a really good point about like, and I hadn't really thought about character classes and whether they let you still make decisions. So yeah, fascinating.
Which is why, as I'm saying it, it feels so weird to say because it's kind of like, I don't feel like I have agency. That's why it's a psychological mindfuck that I can still play it as per normal, but I feel like
Mm.
I can't at the same time. The other thing that I'll flat out say, Curious Pendant, like I'll never buy it, but I just hate what that item can do. I just think because obviously I found it, it went to me when we looted it, and it was there, and I was like, look, I may as well just use this. I know it's not built into the character; it's got nothing to do with the character, but that item should not exist.
Yeah, they kind of need to, if they're going to print broken like cards, almost have a can't be used by this symbol on it,
Mm.
right? Like that's how you do things in some card games. They put an errata, or they a limit to something, right? Like, so yeah, I think you just need to have that because you're right. That just made part of the character trivial.
It changes its hand limit. It changes the tempo. And I mean, you could find a use for that. It's best in slot, and I would say nearly any character in the game. It's just it's
Anything with
ridiculous.
an impactful burn, yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, and it's interesting. That's interesting. I love the idea of the empower. I just barely got to see it because you can do it heaps and it just doesn't happen.
yeah, that was the RNG thing. I felt. I think
Mm.
that would work really well with the Vortex because you can void sight.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah,
great. So yeah. The last thing with the
yeah.
the rupture mechanic that was built into it, I actually enjoyed rupture. I liked the idea of it. I didn't lean too heavily into it, but I like that rupture is a very interesting way of playing around wound and movement. So that I appreciated a lot, and I can
Mm.
see a world where I'd potentially play it again to play around the rupture, but that still wouldn't nullified my first point, which was the force to burn to get sated.
Yeah, I agree. And there was some cool. It didn't happen very often, but there was some cool moments where you ruptured something and wounded something, and then it made it so that it wasn't next to anybody, or pushed it away or something like that. So over like 2 turns, it took 4 pure damage. Like that kind of process, and it was like, oh wow, that thing that was a threat is not a threat. And that kind of interaction seemed good, like without being super easy. Right? Because it's put these conditions on it and move it away in some capacity and then make it move. Yeah, so I agree. I think Rupture is an interesting addition to the game.
Yep. All right. Shall we have a look?
Yeah, let's go. What are we looking at first? 6?
All right, 7, because I finished on 6.
Okay, cool.
Let me know when you're ready, guys.
I'm just scrolling down, so you can start. Yep, 7.
All right, 7. I have Indomitable Craving. Goes at a 22. The top is, when I'm sated, I can wound and rupture targeting one adjacent enemy for 1 XP. Yeah, okay. That's cool. And then one adjacent enemy with a wound or a rupture suffers 3 damage. If that enemy has both conditions, they suffer 6 damage instead. Wow. If this kills the enemy, loot the hex it occupied. That's pretty cool. Yeah, interesting. So immediately, yeah, okay. So I could use that when I'm not sated and still be able to do the 6 damage.
Yeah, if it's wounded and ruptured.
Yeah, because there were many times I was doing that, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So that basically just can do 6 damage to. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that's quite good.
The bottom is you can play this action while you have a stun. Oh, okay. You are immune to all negative conditions and gain advantage on all of your attacks this round. And then move 3. Yeah, okay. So it's a move 3.
Okay.
Yeah. We have Survival Instincts. It goes at a 13. Ooh, 13's nice. The top is a Retaliate 3 self. Of course. Like, yep, that makes sense.
Because that tanking build that you were going for, right?
After the next 2 sources of damage from attacks targeting you this round, perform Heal 3 Self Empower. I can see a world where you can lean heavily into the Empower and just, even on basic attacks, attack 2, +1/+1/+1, which is cool. Okay, so it's a way of getting more Empower cards, healing myself, and retaliate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this becomes one of those weird niche picks, and if you're going against monsters that have low attack values, or if you have ways to have group shields and things like that, where you're going to reduce it down. So if you can net health out of it and gain Empower, it's pretty good. So.
The bottom
weird as the top, though.
Weird as the top, definitely. Quite strange to the weird as the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's attacks as well, so I can't trigger it myself from being ruptured or anything like that. The bottom is move 4 with jump, rupture, target 1 adjacent enemy. So when I land, and then if I'm sated, all adjacent enemies suffer 1 damage. That's pretty good. I can see that on a follow-up turn after the previous turn. Yeah, okay. And you just go in, rupture something else, which will give me advantage with the items that I had, and then everything will suffer 1 damage. And then I could use the top of Fatal Frenzy or something else to take advantage of the rupture thing. So yeah, not bad. I don't know which one I'd pick out of those 2. I'd probably look at the Indomitable Cravings. Really interesting. I'd probably be looking at maybe that. It's hard to say. I don't know. It's because I feel like there were so many times that monsters had both conditions on them, right? I just feel like it would get a fair bit of pure damage value.
I mean, just having the bottom that has a move 3 and you have advantage on all your attacks is pretty good, right?
Yeah, but I feel like I had too much advantage in general, like because of the weapon with the thing on it, the infrared goggles I picked up that one scenario, which gave me an advantage when I was in Viz. So yeah, it was just constantly throwing 2 cards. All right, level 8. We have Devour Whole. I almost misread that second word.
Yeah, that's how I read it too. So yep, whale, right? That's what we're thinking. Whale,
yeah, goes at a 69. Nice. The top is an attack 4. Kill the target if its current hit point value is equal to or less than 2 after the attack. Okay, so I've got another card that did that. That was a burn, which is I like that. Little executes.
Squeeze,
and then if I'm sated, add +2 attack and gain an XP. Okay, so it becomes an attack 6. And if I'm sated, also recover one of your discarded cards if the attack kills an enemy at least. If the attack ability kills at least one enemy. Yeah, okay,
Okay.
pretty cool. The bottom is
Seems
a
pretty
move 3, attack 6, and then move 3 again. Become sated and 2 XP, and it is a burn card.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty
just
good.
quickly, that's really good. Yeah, just quickly though, that's what I thought this character was going to be a lot more of, right? And that's probably a I'm framing this up as a um compliment to the designers because I thought it was going to be a lot more of just like move, hit really hard, move, hit really hard, and the bottom of that card seems almost like a I don't know, just do whatever you want, hit something really hard, get sated, which is a really good condition for you to have, and then do something else even more bonkers.
Hmm.
And I don't think that it was that, which is good because that would have just been a straight line, just like, again, attack move the other side of the map and just kill everything along the way.
Hmm.
You actually had to figure out timings with this, which is good. Plus, the top, I like that that's paired with a burn because it means the top is actually quite good. You're
Yes.
probably not going to want to burn it.
No.
So, yeah.
No. Great card. Like really, really fun card. We had Heart Ripper, not Stripper. Oh god, what's wrong with us? It goes at a 90, very slow. The top is an attack 6, add +4 attack if the target has Rupture. Wow. Wow.
It's like 10. 10's a
Yeah,
high number.
10 is big. And then with Critzilla, yeah. And then it heals 5 self and empower, becomes sated, 2 XP. It is a burn. The bottom is a move 5. That is quite spammable. And if I'm sated, add +3 to the move. That's a move 8. And
Yep.
1 XP.
Okay, move 8 seems like also a high number.
That's very interesting because I actually would not know which of those two cards I would have played. They both kind of fit in with what I was doing.
Yeah, they're both really good.
The attack 10 with the Curious Pendant might be good. I'm just saying.
Just saying. Maybe.
Level 9, Ultimates. Belly of the Beast goes at a 38. The top is become sated, then play 4 cards from your lost pile. I'm already grossed out by that. Performing 2 top actions and 2 bottom actions, none of which may have a lost symbol. Yeah, okay. So you're playing them for the sated, which is still pretty nuts. Become exhausted. Oh.
Oh, okay. All right. That's that. Okay, that's the spicy part of that.
Well, there's a break under it, so I don't have to perform
Yep.
that.
Just choose not to do it.
That is very cool. That's a really cool last minute, obviously. I know I'm going down, which I did many times, but may as well delete the room again. Yeah, okay. The bottom is the next time you kill an enemy, perform Empower Self 4 times. Wow, that makes me sated and it's not a burn.
Holy bananas.
Wow. Okay. Bloody hell.
I mean, that is a level 9 card.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That I like that as a level 9 card. It's just absolutely bonkers. The burn component is just insane. But obviously you die, so it has it's not a niche usability, but it's going to be used in a certain part of each scenario, right? But the bottom, I mean, that's really good.
It's really good. I'm just looking at that top again. I could ignore the top part of it and just play the Become Exhausted one and get that battle goal. Exhaust first.
Turn one, you do it. It's like I'm not letting any of you guys cuck me on this one.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
The other one is Rip and Tear. Goes at a 42. And attack 4 target 2. Ooh. I definitely didn't have a lot of AoE that was like that I could just whip out, so that was nice. That would be nice. The first target gains Rupture and the second target gains Wound. That's really cool. I like that. If I'm sated, gain advantage and +1 attack, Pierce 2, and 1 XP. That's really good. I can see that would have been, that would replace the Fatal Frenzy, basically, for when I'm sated.
Yeah.
The bottom of it is on your next 6 attacks, targeting enemies with Rupture or Wound, add +4 attack. Holy crap. And there's 6 spots for it.
There are 6 spots for it. Yeah, and the first one makes you sated. Yeah, okay, cool. Interesting. That one seems really good, but like doesn't seem ultimate level 9 capability, right? Like it doesn't do anything absolutely busted. It's just like more numbers.
Totally. I can see so many ways why this is so many people's favorite. Like, just so
Yeah,
many ways.
100%. After reading just the Reddit and the Discord for 2 minutes, you can see that people are like numbers, 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 right?
Mm,
Like we've talked about this when we did our like roll thing. It's like the rogues are just salivating over this.
yeah.
You know, anyone who picks this, like it's like picking a rogue in WoW. It automatically installs a DPS meter into your UI. Like 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Bleeding Claw. I think I can see Phil. I can see Phil loving this.
Oh, Phil would absolutely like. He will play this next. 100%. He will play this next.
Yeah.
So, question.
Yeah.
Why do they put XP on level 9 cards?
For battle goals, I think. I think it's probably the most reason,
Okay.
and they're probably for PQs as well, so that you can still
Yeah,
move them
okay.
along if you need to. But that's a very common question. It might
Yep.
even be in the FAQ because it's so frequently asked.
I feel like next to all of the XP symbols, it needs to have like the Leo laughing face where he's holding up the little thing. Like it's just
Just why not?
yeah. So yeah, cool. It's look, it was a definitely a lot better than I thought it was going to be based on what we unboxed.
Yes.
And when I say better, I mean it was more interesting design than I thought it was going to be. The way that it all worked together. So yeah, it was cool. It was cool to watch. I'm glad I didn't play it because it would have been boring because I would have just missed all the time. So I'm glad that you played it.
Yeah. Thanks. No, I'm glad I played it
And
too.
and actually, if Phil had played it, then it also wouldn't have been fun because it would have just been Blink Blade Mark II, where everything would have just got crit all the time.
Mm,
And again, then that just means the game is boring for everyone else. So yeah, you were the right person to have this.
thank you. And now I've played 2 of these kind of hit kind of characters. I'm hoping the next one never hits at all.
Squishy support with a pet.
Or multiple pets being you guys. So
That's true.
yeah. Wrap it up there.
I think so.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of amDirt. Join us next week as Gaz comes out of retirement. And we head to
For
try.
one more-
And we head. Oh, well, you don't know that.
Yeah, true. We've just decided we're upping the difficulty now, and we're not going to replay scenarios. So maybe we'll give this one go fail and go do something else, and I'll never retire.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. That's a good point. The new rules. I don't know. We change it weekly. So we'll probably just play it on +0 and then complain when it was easy again.
That sounds like us.
Yep. So we'll head back to Trail of Ashes for another potentially spicy scenario, maybe a boss.
Could be a boss. Yeah, spicy boss.
Thank you, everyone. We'll leave it right there. I've been your host, Teddy, and I've been joined again by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, it's all there is.